For those of you who watched my last video, the thumbnail on the screen at the moment, some of you may have watched that and have been a little bit taken aback, thinking that the what I said and the way I said it may have appeared a little bit excessive to some of you. But it absolutely wasn't, and I'm going to show you why in this video. Now, we live in an era of deception, okay? There is so much deception going on, trying to subvert people's understanding, change the narrative, and there are many different tactics the way that people try to do so. And there will be some that are individuals that try to do it through their projections, and there'll be others that try and do it in different ways. Now, most people can detect the trolling. Most people can detect either the fanboys or the fanatics. But what we also get is Trojan horse style attacks, whereby people try to come in and act as if they are friendly, supportive, when actually all they're really trying to do is seek to undermine and damage from within. Okay, this is one of the dynamics of social media, and if you ever get to present anything on social media yourself and you are campaigning for a particular cause, it is likely to be a dynamic which you will encounter, so just be aware of it. So in that video, I'm going to just change tab. There is obviously, if you actually go to that video, it's talking about a comment made by this particular person that's now arrived in our comments section. I've highlighted the numerous comments that they've made on the topic, and I go through them and you can tell by the video I am very angered by the dynamics in play here. But when I come to the comments to that video, which you can all have a look at, let me just enlarge this, is the victim again. And we'll go through this comment and then I'll show you what's what. There we go. So the comment is, "I'll be damned. Never met anyone as hateful as you." So we get the projection that I'm just full of hate. Okay. No, this is again a tactic. When you actually fundamentally look at what I am seeking to achieve, is to achieve justice. We all watched a global injustice, and I am breaking that down, demonstrating the truth and seeking justice. And yet we get these people here trying to project that I'm full of hate. Now, as part of this, within that injustice, there was a victim and there was a beneficiary. This is if we are to believe in the authenticity of Formula One, which we did prior to Abu Dhabi 2021, and if we are to believe that Lewis Hamilton wasn't in on it, then Lewis Hamilton is the victim and Max Verstappen is the beneficiary. Within that dynamic, though, Max Verstappen was the beneficiary throughout, being enabled to get away with driving in an illegal manner, and ever since has also been enabled to do the same and continue driving in that manner. And what that has done, that has attracted a certain dynamic of fan and conditioned their beliefs with thinking that that manner of driving, that manner of conduct is okay. And it's not. It's not okay in Formula One, and it's not okay in society. But it appeals to those that are like-minded. Max Verstappen is a mirror to them people. That is who they are. That's what they like. They see what they like in him and the way he conducts himself and the way he goes about things. That's who they are. Okay? So when I say I hate that, they go, "Oh, you just hate you." Well, yes, I do hate that. Okay? People who conduct themselves like that in this world are not good people. So I'm saying that I don't like them people. I hate them people. They are the toxic, damaging people on this planet. So yes, I do hate that. But don't project me as being hateful, because we're conditioned to be tolerant of everybody. And the problem is, when you are tolerant towards intolerant people, they just exploit your tolerance. They don't go, look, fair enough. Yeah, I've been a bit of a dick there. Okay, you're right. And thanks for being tolerant of me. I apologise and I won't do it again. No, they don't know how to do that. They just continue exploiting and perpetrating. And you'll continually be the victim of that dynamic until something is done about it. Because that is who you're up against. A bully doesn't self-regulate. If they self-regulated, they wouldn't act like that in the first place. But what they want to do is exploit others. Okay? They want to dominate others. That's what their mindset is. And that's what we've got, an ideology of people that see themselves, see that in Max Verstappen, see that in themselves, that appeals to them, and that's how then they'll treat others. And I hate that. And Max Verstappen is the poster boy for that type of person. And it's done by design. So, but again, let's get back to this comment. I'll be damned, never met anyone as hateful as you. Maybe I was wrong. I wasn't actually. But to insult me and have 2-hour rants about me is beyond insane. So, look at the language used. Okay? He wants to present as being reasonable. Maybe I was wrong, but then going, I wasn't. Right? But insult, rant, insane. Okay? This is how the projection is regarding me. Now, first of all, the appeal itself from Mercedes was not wrong. They were right to appeal, as we all know. FIA were not wrong and not corrupt when they invited Red Bull Racing because they are an interested party. I've said the entire procedure, the entire process was a facade. The entire thing was a fraud. It was staged. And I'm going to go through it. I've got the documents from that appeal and what actually happened. And I'm going to go through that in this video to demonstrate the truth of it. I've made multiple videos about this in the past. And now, rather than go into great detail about it, which I will do in this video, I just say it was entirely fraudulent. But this lad came to the comment section to say, no, legally it wasn't. And this is the thing, when people come to a comment section and try to present, I have a legal understanding of this and legally it was okay, that has an impact of making some people question whether that's right or wrong. Makes them think, oh, well, this guy might know what they're talking about. This guy seems to think it's okay and says that legally it was right to do so. So was it right? Maybe it was right. Maybe the person making the video is wrong here, which is what they try to do by design. This is a Trojan horse. This is somebody who seeks to come within, presenting in a certain way, to try to get people to disbelieve what is actually being said. And I'll evidence what I'm saying. But they can't. All they can do is use words such as legally it was right. They can't back it up. And when I break it down, like I did in the last video, in terms of explaining that even the structures that the FIA have put in place to deal with any problems relating to a motor race, well, this is unprecedented in as much that they don't make rules for when the FIA has broken their own rules. Okay? Nowhere does that. So when you come against something that has never happened before, you have to take a different view altogether. The FIA stewards they had put to them, the FIA has broken its own rules. The race director has broken the rules of the sport. So what does that entail? They need to say, okay, what are the rules of the sport? What has race control done? By doing that, it affected everybody in that race. All they did was invite Red Bull in there to ask what Red Bull's opinion. That is entirely corrupt. But this guy went, legally, that was right. No, it's not right at all. But you're trying to impact people's minds. So we'll get back to what he's saying. The FIA were not wrong and not corrupt when they invited Red Bull Racing because they are an interested party. We'll get to that. This invited Red Bull Racing, we'll come to that as well. That is all according to the rules. Like I say, the rules don't apply when it's unprecedented. The rules don't cover an unprecedented situation. You have to set the precedent. The rule, you do not write a law saying, here is the law for when the lawmakers, when the judges are corrupt. The judges are designed to not be corrupt. So when they are corrupt, oh, what now? What? There's no rule about that. What do we do now? Oh, we'll ask another judge to see if their friend, the judge, is corrupt or not. Oh, they've found themselves not guilty. Oh, that's strange, isn't it? Anyway, nowhere is it mentioned for what situations the rules, etc., are written. So again, this is where they are again twisting people's perception. Nowhere is it mentioned for what situations the rules were written. This is similar to comments that we've had saying, oh, they don't say that the unlapping procedure is anything to do with sporting fairness. It doesn't say anything about sporting fairness. So people think that that doesn't apply to the unlapping procedure for the safety car. But you tell them, no, these regulations are grounded in the context of the International Sporting Code, which is ensuring sporting fairness to all competitors. But it doesn't say that that's what it's for. So nowhere does it say. Nowhere is it mentioned for what situations the rules, etc., are written. Yeah. Do you think they wrote a rule? If the race director breaks the rules of the sport, this is how the stewards should deal with it. They should invite Red Bull in to ask Red Bull what Red Bull think. No, that's not how they deal with it. It is a shame that other teams were not invited. No, sorry, it is a shame. It is the same. Sorry, it is the same. What are you on about? No, I'm trying to. I've read this wrong. My mistake. So I'll just go over this again to try and make it make sense. Nowhere is it mentioned for what situations the rules, etc., were written. It is the same. So whether he's trying to say the rules in terms of how the stewards conduct these appeals, they have to go by the same rules as they would when there's an incident which involves two teams. No, this is completely different. But again, this is their projection. This is what they want people to believe. That other teams were not invited doesn't matter. Of course it matters. The thing is, this is the picking and choosing of the rules. You see, you are suggesting here that the FIA were absolutely right to invite Red Bull in because that is the rules. But the fact that they didn't invite the other teams in, which is going by your version of the rules, that is the rules, they weren't invited in, but that doesn't matter. That's the way you want to project it. I pointed out why Red Bull Racing was legally invited, and that was according to the rules. Is obviously put the space in the wrong place. You have made the claim that Red Bull Racing was invited corruptly into that appeal, but they were legally necessary. Look at them using the term legally. They are not legally necessary. Okay? They're not legally necessary. The way you would deal with this appeal by Mercedes is for the governing body to assess the nature of Mercedes' appeal. Mercedes are appealing, saying the governing body has broken its own rules. Race Control, who is the governing body's race control, has broken the rules of the sport. The stewards have to make a ruling on that. Have they broken the rules of the sport? Yes, they have. Therefore, we need to make a ruling. We are going to inform all of the teams that this is the ruling we are making. And you can invite those teams in at this stage prior to announcing the ruling in terms of making it public. You can go, right, all teams together, in you come everybody, right? Listen, the last 2 laps of that race, were a fuckery, and race control got it wrong. They only released 5 cars when they had to release all 8 under the regulations of the sport. So that is mistake number 1. Let's call it a mistake. So that's an error number 1. Error number 2 is that he then called the safety car in immediately, when we all know the safety car returns to the pits at the end of the following lap. That didn't happen, so there's 2 issues. The third of leaving the 3 in situ created the skewed outcome of third place not being able to challenge those first 2 competitors, created other outcomes in terms of Mick Schumacher was left in between the 2 Alpha Tauris and the Mercedes of Bottas, and the 5 that were released, they were left 2/3 of a lap behind 6th position, unable to contest for that position. The whole thing skewed the entire sporting contest, impacting everybody. All of you are impacted by this. Therefore, the last 2 laps of that race are invalid. There you go. Now, then at that stage, Red Bull might choose to try to appeal that decision. They'd have no grounds for doing so, but that is the process that you'd have to go down. So, but he wants to project legal. He thinks he's got some legal understanding of it. You see, the notion of legal is people trying to argue a case using words and try to twist meaning and twist interpretation to try to absolve people of consequence for what it is has happened and suggest validity to what has happened. That's a lawyer seeking to absolve perpetrators of consequence, trying to present something as being that's actually right to do it that way, when it absolutely is not. Then my point was that while the appeal and Red Bull Racing's attendance was completely legal, how many times do you want to say the same thing? The process that followed to get the outcome of Max's WDC was maybe corrupt. Okay, so look at again the words. Possibly, maybe. He'll say definitely, legally they should be there, but maybe what then happened maybe wasn't right. Okay, then my point was that while the appeal of I've said that one. That you don't agree with me is fine, but to insult me is just unnecessary. Simply tell me why I am wrong. But you didn't even quote the rules or say it doesn't apply here. But where do you get that from? You see, where I get it from is looking at everything. You see, for everything of the 30 plus things that were wrong relating to this event, each one in isolation, you will get a lawyer saying, oh, it doesn't mean that. Oh, it could be this. Oh, it could be that. Oh, it could be this. Oh, it could be that. Not necessarily this. Not necessarily. Oh, right, okay. But this was just the perfect storm then. None of it was a contrivance, but the perfect scenario of all these things happening at the same time, at the same place, all happened together, and it was the miracle from the racing gods, was it? So, you tried to contest me saying that the steward's appeal was entirely fraudulent, grounded on all that had taken place before it, that being somebody had crashed their car in an event which was a world championship decider, an unprecedented event where the world championship went down to the last Grand Prix of the season, and the 2 title contenders were level on points. One was leading by 12 seconds, a car crash with 5 laps to go, and then that crash was suspicious. When you actually analyse the crash was contrived. The commentary was all narrative, entirely contrived. What Footage was played to the world, was all narrative, entirely contrived, creating the notion of Red Bull being the victims. Race control, the FIA broke the rules of the sport, setting it up for Max Verstappen to have a free hit at Lewis Hamilton, knowing that he was significantly advantaged to do so. So on the back of all that, we've now got a Stewards appeal that you're saying legally that was perfectly right. Absolutely right that was. It's all part of the same fraud. It was all part of the facade. Mercedes sent in a barrister to that appeal. Why have you turned up to a track with a barrister? That was all part of the narrative beforehand. Mercedes have brought along a barrister to this event. Oh, why are you telling us that then? It's all contrived. When have they ever done that before, and when have they ever done that since? When has Toto Wolff not been in that appeal if it's the most important appeal ever in Formula One? And Toto Wolff, the team principal's not in there. But instead, they've sent a barrister. Now, I'm going to come to the documents and demonstrate how contrived it was. You don't agree with me, and it's fine, but to insult me as, again, projecting me as being the insulting one, and with validation, simply tell me why I'm wrong, which I did, and you don't even quote the rules. Well, I've quoted the rules multiple times, and quoting the rules of the manner in which the stewards would deal with such a thing, like I've said, the rules for them to deal with any kind of protest doesn't relate to this type of protest. They were protesting against something, about something that was unprecedented, something that impacted every single competitor in that event. And if all the FIA do is ask one team, the beneficiary team, about what they thought about it, ignoring all of the other competitors, that's not in accordance with the law, the rules of their way that they deal with it legally. Okay? So it's not. But you don't deal with it like that anyway. Because at that stage, we're not asking for the opinions of the teams. We're doing an analysis of fact. The facts are Mercedes is saying race control broke the rules. Did race control break the rules? We don't need Red Bull's opinion. Analyze the facts. Did they break the rules? Yes, they broke the rules. Therefore, what needs to happen? We need to count back 2 laps, because the last valid lap was lap 56. The race result will be the end of lap 56, because on lap 57, race control broke the rules of the sport. That's all they need to do. And then get all the teams in and say, this is what has happened. They broke the rules on lap 57 by selecting just 5 of 8 cars. There's your rule breach. They immediately brought in the safety car when we know it has to remain on track for a further lap. It should have been a safety car finish. So what took place was all invalid. And it impacted you all differently. We know that that's not allowed to happen. So we can't allow that to happen. So that's what we're doing. Anybody that wants to protest that, they can then submit their counter protest. But they've got no grounds to do so. Anyway, and do you have any real evidence why all the teams were in on it? Well, their conduct demonstrates their role within what took place. If you are Ferrari, if you are the team of Carlos Sainz, you are running in 3rd place in that race. You know what the procedure is. You know that there's a safety car period. There's a safety car. There's lapped cars in situ. The unlapping procedure has to take place, meaning that you, in 3rd, are right now on the back of 2nd before any race can take place. That never happened. You are denied the opportunity to contest for a top 2 position. They did not appeal. Why not? Why? Because they were happy to take a back seat to just let the watching world see a contest between two drivers. Were they willing to do that at every other Grand Prix of the season? Were Ferrari willing to just not contest first and second at any other Grand Prix ever and just say, you know what, we're not bothered about contesting for first. We'll let you do that. We'll just stay back here in third and just let the world see you. When has any team been willing to do that? But that's what they all were willing to do at Abu Dhabi 2021, weren't they? They were all complicit with that being the narrative of that race. At any other Grand Prix ever, they would have appealed the fact that, hang on, you've broken the regulations here. When that race restarted, we weren't in a position to have a chance at overtaking second position. And you never know, even overtaking first. You blocked off our chances of winning that event. They didn't protest. That demonstrates their complicity with what took place. Simple as that. Likewise, McLaren. McLaren are in a race. Lando Norris is in 7th position, fighting for World Championship points. They know that prior to the resumption of that race, they will be back on the back of Pierre Gasly in 6th. So when that race resumes, they will be fighting for 6th place. They were denied that opportunity. Did they protest? No, they did not. Every other event, had they have been left like that, they would have protested. We were on course for World Championship points. You've denied us that. But what you've left us is susceptible to losing that position without any opportunity of gaining any. Did they protest? No, they didn't. And each of the teams affected in different ways. Those drivers that were set off and told that they're racing under yellow conditions, where's the mention of that? Who protested? All of those 5 drivers are now, they're committing an offence. They're driving under yellows. The car in front of me didn't lift for yellows. Which of them snitching on the radio? Car in front of me didn't lift for yellows. He's speeding under yellows. He's still going flat out under yellow. Because we see a lot of snitching these days, don't we? Oh, they all stayed silent. Where's your proof that they're all complicit? Oh, conduct. Yeah? Where's your proof that somebody committed a murder? Oh, what they did. Yeah, conduct. But again, this is, what they want to project. Oh, you don't have evidence. Do you have any real evidence why all teams were in on it? Yes, their conduct. Because that's not authentic. It's not congruent with what is correct. What is normal. What people do in that situation if it is authentic. No, they all stayed quiet. None of them raised their voice to say this is wrong and this is what we're doing about it. All complicit. You have no evidence Latifi's crash was on purpose. We have evidence of what Nicholas Latifi drove like. We have evidence that in the previous, we can go through every lap of that race if we like. I've not done every lap, but the previous 5 laps, he went round turn 14 in 4th gear. It could be in the first few laps of the race, he might have gone down round there in 3rd gear. If his car was heavier on a heavy fuel load, he might be selecting a different gear if the car is in a different state of trim. If it's heavier with a different wing setting for certain tyres, you never know. He might have, in the early stages of the race, been using another gear. But what we do know, with the car being in that state that it was in, he selected 4th gear and would ease the throttle in going around the corner, as they all do. Building the revs, changing gear, building the revs, changing gear. That's how they drive. That's how they come out of a corner. We saw him select 3rd gear and floor the throttle. That is how you crash. You want to say, I've got no evidence of it being on purpose. We've got the conduct of what he did. There is no evidence for it that it was to help Max. Well, what has it done? The evidence is of what did it achieve? What did it achieve? Well, it caused a safety car. What did they then utilise that safety car period to do? Well, they utilised that safety car period to set up a one-lap shootout, having brought Max back towards Lewis Hamilton. We saw those laps prior to Latifi crashing. We saw that gap of approximately 12 seconds remain approximately stable at around 12 seconds. It appeared to everybody that in those 5 laps, Max Verstappen was not going to catch and pass Lewis Hamilton. He was not gaining on Lewis Hamilton. He was not gaining at such a rate that he would get anywhere close to Hamilton. That crash enabled that. So we've got a car crashing. We can look at the nature of that crash. We can look at what that crash produced. You're saying there was no evidence for it that it was to help Max. Look at what you are trying to project. Maybe it was to make sure it was a safety car finish. But Massey fucked up and he finished racing, hence he was fired. Oh, you think it was to secure a safety car finish, do you? Who needed a safety car finish? Did Lewis need a safety car finish? Did the guy that was winning by 12 seconds, maintaining that gap at approximately 12 seconds, not looking like he was under any threat, did he need a safety car finish? Or had it not have been a safety car finish, did it look like he was on course to win? So do you think they were trying to contrive a safety car finish to take the shine off his win that he looked on course to get? Or do you think that it's more likely it was done to construct a last lap shootout, a spectacle, to have the drama all the way to the end that people would forever remember, and then come back next year to spend their money on the show? As I've told you what this is all about, growth by putting on a spectacle. Oh, there's no proof of that. Maybe they were trying to do it for a safety car finish. Yeah, that's it. That's how you excite the kiddies, isn't it? But Massey messed up. Did he mess up, did he? He didn't mess up anywhere else. Didn't mess up in the other examples I've given when he kept the safety car on track for an additional lap beyond the mandatory one. Didn't do it then, did he? Demonstrated he knew full well what the rules and regulations are for and their purpose there, didn't he? Funny that. He just fucked up this time. Hence was fired. Was he fired? See, if you're fired, what happens when you're fired? You're sacked. Okay? Get your stuff, clear your desk, off you go. You're not given a massive payout. You're not made to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Okay? Don't say anything about this. Here's your money. If you do say anything, we're going to hit you with some penalties. We'll either withdraw that money or there'll be a bigger consequence. Even more money that we'll sue you for exposing what it is that you talk about. You will not disclose what you know and did. That's what a non-disclosure agreement is. But you just think that's because he messed up. That's what you want to project. But this is not what I'm saying. This is not somebody innocent just thinking that. Look at the style in which they're doing this. What I said was the crash was not planned. Rightio, this is what the projection is. But as soon as it happened, they could use it to contrive the outcome in Verstappen's way. So 10 laps before the end of the race, 5 laps before the crash, they're interviewing Christian Horner. Christian Horner appeals for help from the racing gods. And just as that interview is coming to an end. It gets cut across to Ted Kravitz in the pits. Oh, and in comes to the pits. Oh, Lando was running in fourth, but has now suffered a slow puncture for going over these curbs. Is it these high curbs? Has Lewis Hamilton got to be aware of the high curbs? So, Crofty, are we in for another tyre twist in this Grand Prix? And then a little bit later, oh no, Nicholas Latifi has crashed. Oh, this is where Max's much fresher tyres will fire up on any kind of restart. Oh, now Max has got the fresh tyres. Oh, this is awful for Lewis on those heavily used hard compound tyres. Are we in for another tyre twist, Crofty? They thought, oh, it's just a lucky crash and now we'll use it. Do you think that, do you? It's the perfect storm, isn't it? It must be the miracle provided by the racing gods. They could use it to contrive the outcome in Verstappen's way. So, contrivance. Well, I've said this is entirely fraudulent, and you're still using the word contrivance and not acknowledging that I'm saying this is entirely fraudulent. Strange, isn't it? See, you do trip yourself up, but the manner in which you still present is still to subvert understanding, because you're a Trojan horse, and this is where you do it. You present in a way whereby, oh, I'm the reasonable one. I'm just being the reasonable one, but I'm saying that that's absolutely right, and the other bits are just a little bit maybe doubtful. The things that are wrong are a little bit doubtful, but this here is definitely right, and that means you're wrong there. That's how they do it. And Bono and Mercedes in on the fix against Lewis? Question mark. Yeah, he was. His strategy. Why run a strategy when you start the race on mediums, knowing you can go to between lap 20 and 25 with a driver like all the other drivers could? So you'd think Lewis Hamilton would be able to at least be able to do that. Max Verstappen started on softs, has to change them after about 12 laps. So rather than if you're only intending to do a one-stop race, why not run the first stint as long as possible so that your second stint you've got a better tyre offset as well? If Max is doing a two-stop race, well, you've got a pit stop in hand. Once Max has pitted, if you've got another 12 or 13 laps left on that set of tyres, if during those 12 or 13 laps that you're able to run on those tyres, there is a virtual safety car, rather than your pit stop relative to Max costing, say, 21, 22 seconds, with Max slowed down to a delta, relatively speaking, your pit stop's only going to take about 14 seconds, 16 seconds. So you actually gained 6 or 8 seconds on the lead of 8 seconds you already had over him. Why throw that opportunity away and bring Lewis out behind Sergio Perez? Checo Perez, the Mexican Minister of Defense, setting up that drama, losing Hamilton 8 seconds in that race against Max. Why would you do that? You're doing it because you're playing your role. You're not doing it for the best success of Lewis Hamilton. It is quite simple. The nature of the communications between Hamilton and Bono. You compare those communications, Bono's responses, to every other Grand Prix. They're not the same. So yes, Bono was in on it. Do you mean they were against Lewis and in on the fix to rob him of the 8th title? Yes. Yes. What matters more to Toto Wolff is money. What mattered more to Toto Wolff was he is a team principal. He is the 1/3 owner of the Mercedes Formula One team. That team was valued at approximately 3 billion. It is now valued at closer to 5 billion. Toto Wolff has gone from owning something that was value, his share of it was worth, for example, 1 billion. His share of it is now worth approximately 1.6 billion. Therefore, Toto Wolff's personal wealth has increased by £600 million. That is what matters most to Toto Wolff. He is very influential and is capable of doing what he did. That is what is happening here. He is in on it. Who is also very influential? Red Bull. They own 2 teams on the grid. They are hugely important to motorsport worldwide due to the amount of money that they put in to all forms of motorsport, governed by the FIA. All that motorsport provides an income to the FIA, meaning that that Red Bull have a massive influence over the FIA and their policies. That's what it is. It is who has the influence, who has the power to do things. They're doing things in the interest of their own money. It works with the owners of the show because you've manufactured a spectacle that they sell to the kiddies, that they sell to the world. That causes growth. That causes growth to all of the teams. All of the teams benefit. They all are on board with it. It's nothing to do with sporting integrity. It breaks the rules. It's a fraud. That is what has actually happened. Don't you think they would have done that way sooner? Well, what do you mean? Don't you think they would have done that way sooner? At what point do people make plans? At what point do people have an idea and think we can contrive this way? You tell me. At what point over the course of time have people decided we are going to contrive this? Crashgate happened in 2008. Do you not think they'd have done it any sooner than that? Well, Briatore decided that that's what they were going to do at that race. Why did he want to do it at that race? Well, that was the first ever night race held in a financial global major player of Singapore, sponsored by ING, Renault's title sponsor, ING. Eyes of the world on the event. Prestigious event. Be nice if the ING sponsored car won. A big banking institution, Dutch bank, win, getting the prestige of winning in a global financial centre. Oh, where's your motive? Oh, money, growth, image, the effect that it has. Oh, we'll do that. We'll cheat. We'll get our car to win. Motive. They saw an opportunity. They contrived a season. The sport of Formula One was one of the first sports to resume with spectators after COVID. Because that was one of the few sports on offer, that would have attracted people that probably wouldn't have been interested, probably would have paid more attention to other sports. But because Formula One was one of the only things available to them at the time, oh, well, watch this. Oh, it's actually quite exciting, isn't it? Quite close. This is quite a tight title battle. Oh, it's gone down to the last race of the season. They exploited that. And then when they've hyped the show up, now we'll contrive it. Why? Oh, well, we're in an era of domination. Oh, the same guy seems to win it every year. What's going to be more exciting? Oh, now we've got a new kid on the block. Now we've got a new world champion. What's this going to be? This is the narrative over the next few seasons going to be the young pretender, the new kid against the old champ. Yeah, that's the nice plot that's going to keep us sustained for the next few years, isn't it? Now we've got more world champions on the grid that people will be saying, oh, there's lots of people that can win, not just Lewis Hamilton. Sebastian Vettel hasn't won for a while, but he's a world champion. Fernando Alonso hasn't won for a while, but he's a world champion. But now we've got this new kid as well that's a world champion. Oh, Raikkonen's gone. One world champion's going, so we've got a new one now. the new young pretender, who's come with a new style of driving, who the kiddies love, and attracted to every race circuit is the Orange Army. And he's now the world champion, and we'll now call him one of the best we've ever seen, despite him doing nothing and driving illegally. Don't you think they'd have done that any sooner, way sooner? Well, who knows what they've done over the course of time. I'm not here to speculate about when they should have cheated and which years they should have cheated sooner. I'm talking about what they did do. But maybe I was wrong, maybe I was right. All I did was show you were wrong, and you still are. No, be man enough to admit it. Now, the way this goes is here. You can click on this guy's profile. Where is it? No, that's not what I need to click on. Sorry. Let me come out of that, because reorder these. It shows you. It's easier to do this on my phone. Is it on this one? No. There's a way of doing this. I have got the screenshot of it if I can't find how I did it. But it does show you the statistics. Is it that? Let me just come down. There it is. This comes up. So, this is the user's details. David RT4R4R. Okay. Joined 6 days ago. 38 comments on this channel. 1 hearted. So he's made comments saying, you liked my comment. Yeah, I liked one of your comments. And like I said in that video, sometimes I will read the comments, and even if I don't necessarily agree with the point being made, if I can see that what I believe the intent of the comment is good or reasonable, or I acknowledge it, I will occasionally heart them. Doesn't necessarily mean I fully agree with what you're saying. He's made 38 comments on my channel. Might not necessarily read every single one of them. There might be some that were posted as replies to comments, and I don't see all of those. But that indicates quite a lot. So I can see the number of comments that people make. I can see my response to their comments, and that tells me who is who. That tells me who this guy is. 38 comments. Joined 6 days ago, 38 comments. And only one of them comments has been worthy of saying, yeah, that's a good one. And that's what they want to project on this channel. So, you, sir, in order to interact with this channel here, let me just come out of this if I can. Here he is. If you intend interacting with this channel, okay, you are going to have to make a new profile, because I'm going to hide you from the channel. There you go. Gone. Go back to your troll farm, okay, and come back with a new profile as you will, you Trojan horse motherfucker. Anyway, he'll be back, and we'll have to work out which new profile he is. But for the rest of you, here's for the benefit of everybody else. Well, here's for the benefit of that prick as well. This is the Stewards documents from Abu Dhabi 2021. And you've got the decision of the protest for Article 48.12 and the decision for the protest of 48.8. That's the overtaking under safety car decision. That one, you could argue that they would have asked for Red Bull to try and defend Max's conduct there. But that's a separate issue. Okay? That is separate for them. 48.12 is the appeal regarding the FIA breaking their own rules. That's nothing to do with Red Bull. But what you have here is summons. Summons and summons. So here are the documents. When you click on them, this is what you get. So a team representative is required to report to the stewards at 8:15 in relation to the incident below. That's a summons. That's not an invitation. An invitation is, this is happening, would you like to come as an interested party? This is a summons. A team representative is required. Now, if Mercedes is appealing to the stewards saying the governing body has broken its own rules here, who's been affected? Well, if the rules are broken in a sport, everybody's affected. I've told you in the last video that every single one of those competitors in that race was affected in one way or another. All negatively apart from Max Verstappen. AlphaTauris did actually get benefit, but actually the actual impact of the rule break was still negative. It was a net positive because they were able to gain position on the fresh softs that they were on as well. But who else was summoned? Every team affected, but the FIA stewards didn't summon representatives from the other affected teams. But a team representative is required to report to the stewards. And then here, a team representative is required to report to the stewards at 8:15. We get to that, and here's the protest, and the decision is it's dismissed. And on December the 12th, the parties were summoned, okay, not invited, summoned at 8:15, and heard. The following persons present were, on behalf of Mercedes, Ron Meadows, Andrew Chauvelin, and the barrister, Paul Harris. And on behalf of Red Bull, who were summoned, Wheatley, Horner, and Newey. Red Bull, as an interested party, was permitted to attend. Are they the only people that are interested? Is being summoned the same as being permitted to attend? Being permitted to attend is not required to report, is it? You are required to report. That's not, oh, we'll let you in as well. We'll let you in because you're interested. So yeah, come along. They're two different things. The hearing adjourned at 20:50. So it went on for 35 minutes. The stewards heard a back and forth for 35 minutes by the sound of things. And then it was adjourned to allow Red Bull, who were there as an interested party. They're only there just because they might be interested in this. But now we're adjourning it for Red Bull to go and consider its response in further detail and reconvene at 9:30. So at 10 to 9, the appeal process is adjourned to allow Red Bull 40 minutes to go and make an argument. That's not right. What about the impacted other teams? Do they get 40 minutes to go and make their argument as to why the governing body had broken its own rules and whether that was valid or invalid for the governing body to break their own rules? Did Ferrari get 40 minutes to go away and make an excuse why the governing body had broken its own rules impacting Carlos Sainz? Did McLaren get 40 minutes? Did they get summoned there to then be sent away for 40 minutes to come up with an argument as to why it was valid that Lando Norris in 7th position was left cast adrift of Pierre Gasly? I could go on with every other team. No, they didn't, did they? Just Red Bull are the only ones that are interested in this. Just the beneficiaries. The race director was present for the reconvened hearing. Now, he's the only guy that was actually needed to be summoned. Race control would need to be summoned. They're the ones who broke the rules. You broke the rules here. Here are the rules. You broke them. What the fuck were you doing? But now we listen to what Red Bull had to think. At the hearing, there were no objections against the composition of the stewards panel. So nobody objected that Derek Warwick was a steward who had described Max Verstappen as being his great white hope and who owns a Honda car dealership on the Isle of Jersey, and the Red Bull team is powered by a Honda power unit, and that Red Bull team winning creates great brand kudos for Honda being the power unit supplier for the World Championship winning car, and therefore Derek Warwick is a net gainer out of that. That's called a conflict of interest, and yet nobody at the hearing was able to object to Warwick's presence as a steward. Bit too late then, isn't it? You know, the governing body of the sport should have identified that conflict of interest, and that renders him unfit to steward in any Grand Prix whilst he owns a Honda car dealership, whilst he has any ties whatsoever with Honda. But no. Number 3. At the hearing, the parties referred to the documents submitted. Red Bull submitted graphical information, Exhibit A. There is no evidence of Exhibit A. What graphical information could Red Bull exhibit? What is that? What graphical information would Red Bull have that would in any way counter the fact that FIA race control broke the rules of the sport? But we've got that point there, and yet Exhibit A is not here. The claims of Mercedes. Mercedes claimed there were 2 breaches of the sporting regulations, Article 48.12, namely which states any cars have been lapped by the leader will be required to pass the cars on the lead lap and the safety car, and once the last lap car has passed the leader, the safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap. Mercedes argued, it's not an argument, it's a statement of fact. They've stated these are the regulations because those are the regulations. They've quoted the regulations, so it's not an argument. They state that had they been complied with, car 44 would have won the race because it would have had to be a safety car finish. But there's no mention of that. They don't state the term safety car finish, do they? They therefore request the stewards amend the classification under Article 11.9.3h of the FIA International Sporting Code. Why are Red Bull arguing in defence? Red Bull aren't defending. When you're defending, you are accused of you doing something wrong. Okay? And you have to defend your actions. What are Red Bull defending? Are Red Bull defending their actions? Are Red Bull the ones who are race control who broke the rules of the sport? Red Bull aren't the defenders here. This is an entirely fraudulent appeal. Do you not understand? But legally, that wank rag who came here in the comments section will tell you all that legally everything was right according to the rules, legally, that Red Bull were there. Red Bull's argument in defence, it's not for Red Bull to defend. The people under scrutiny are the perpetrators of the offence. The perpetrators of the offence are the FIA, race control, who broke the rules. It's for them to make the defence of their actions. But Red Bull argued in defence that any does not mean all. Well, no, it doesn't. Okay? Any doesn't mean all, and that's why it's specifically written in the regulations the way it is, because they use the term any and then they caveat that with the qualification criteria. Any cars which meet the qualification criteria, okay, which means that they are lapped at the point in time of the incident or when the safety car is deployed, or by the time that they cross the first safety car line for the second time after the safety car is deployed, that means you've met the criteria that you are then required to unlap. If you become lapped after that period of time, you do not meet the criteria, the qualifying criteria, to be allowed to unlap. You've got yourself lapped late in that safety car period, and your actions are going to cause a massive delay in this. So you've shot yourself in the foot there. You're not eligible to be released. You should have done things better. You know the rules. Don't risk getting yourself lapped after you've crossed the safety car line for the second time after this safety car has been deployed. Otherwise, you're not going to unlap. That's the criteria. So any car, right, that has been lapped by the leader, so any caveated by the additional criteria of those who meet the criteria, and we'll go back up here, any cars that have been lapped by the leader, any caveat who meet the criteria, been lapped by the leader, will be required to pass the cars on the lead lap and the safety car. That's a requirement. That's a bit like summoned, isn't it? A requirement is a bit like required to report. Okay, not here is where it's they're just permitted as an interested party. See, we just can't talk straight, can we? Red Bull argued that any does not mean all. No, the use of the word any was entirely correct. And any that meet the criteria, of which all 8 lapped cars in that event did meet the qualifying criteria, will be required. So number 1 point of Red Bull, any does not mean all. A big argument in social media afterwards that the strap-on fanboys all of a sudden became experts of language, didn't they? Yes, absolutely, legally, any doesn't mean all. Yes, we're all experts of language, even though most of them are illiterate. Strange that. Anyway, number 2, the Article 48.13 of the sporting regulations state that the message safety car in this lap is the signal that it will enter the pit lane at the end of that lap. Okay, so number 2 there is not an argument. Number 2 is a statement of fact. The Article 48.13 of the sporting regulations states that the message safety car in this lap is the signal that it will enter the pit lane at the end of that lap. Yes, that is a statement of fact, that article states that. Correct. Therefore, Article 48.13 overrides No, you're entirely wrong. So, number 1, you've made a point that is wrong. Any does not mean all. You've made a statement there that is correct in that the word any does not mean the word all. However, in the context of that race, the word any relates to any car that meets the qualifying criteria. All of those cars that were lapped met that qualifying criteria. So in the event of this race, any, in terms of the regulations, did mean all. So point number 1 is wrong. Point number 2 is a statement. It's not an argument. It's just a statement of the regulation. Quite simply, all you've done is state a regulation. And then you've tried to make as a separate point. Therefore, the regulation we've stated overrides Article 48.12, which is absolutely incorrect. It's not a overriding set of regulations. It is a sequence, and each one in that sequence needs to be carried out fully. That's what it is. By not carrying out them fully, you end up with what we end up in, with the skewed outcomes, with cars in the running order blocking off third from challenging second, with cars are, well, a third of the way round a lap that are 2/3 of the lap behind sixth place Gasly, and all of the other skewed outcomes that I've spoken about. The notion of, oh, well, we didn't do what you've got to do, but at the moment he says safety car in, that means it's got to come in and that overrides everything. No, you've not done what you have to do. And by not doing what you have to do, that's messed everything up. But Red Bull's argument is that, therefore, Article 48.13 overrides. They don't override. The Article 15.3 gives race director overriding authority over the use of the safety car. That is a statement of fact. Article 15.3 does give the race director overriding authority over the use of the safety car. However, once he uses the safety car, he is bound by the set of regulations that apply to the use of that safety car. That's all that means. So during a race, if the race director chooses to intervene in that race by deploying the safety car because he has grounds to do so, his role is to oversee that race and ensure that is carried out in a safe manner. So if he has a concern over the safe running of that event, he can intervene in it. There's a safety hazard here. I need to take action because that is his responsibility. If he has elected, he has the, well, if he chooses, he has the authority to use the safety car. The moment he chooses that safety car as his measure to deal with the safety incident, then he is bound by that set of regulations that accompany the safety car's use. What he has the overriding authority to do, though, is having carried out those regulations, when we get to the point of bringing that safety car back in its withdrawal, having carried out all the procedures, because those procedures are there to ensure sporting fairness. The moment you intervene in a race with a safety car, you skew the outcomes. All of the advantages built up between all the competitors, they're now wiped out. Everybody bunches back together. So you might have been winning by 10 seconds, and second place might have been 3 seconds ahead of third, and third might have been 20 seconds ahead of fourth. All of them different gaps are now back to nothing. They're all now in this line of cars, and they're all just half a second behind each other. So the moment the safety car is deployed, that's what happens. Article 48.12 at the time deals with when cars are in that running order that have been lapped, and they need to basically be unlapped and return to the back of that running order, creating the correct race order, all cars lined up one behind the other in the correct race order with all the gaps wiped up between all cars. Because the moment that race director intervened, like the situation between Norris and Gasly, Hamilton's in between Norris and Gasly are fighting for a position. The moment the safety car is deployed, Norris has to hold station behind Hamilton, Gasly disappears off around the track. You have to reset that condition prior to resuming that race. That's what the regulations are there for. His overriding authority is, having completed this set of instructions, if we've still got a situation whereby these release cars haven't caught up with the back and they're still left disadvantaged relative to the rest of the group, he can keep that safety car on track for another lap to ensure they fully catch, as he did at Brazil 2019, Spain 2019, Sakir 2020 and Eiffel 2020. The 4 times where Massey demonstrated he knew them regulations and their purpose. He did it multiple times where he just carried out the minimum 1 lap and they fully caught the back of the pack, and then he got racing again. but he did it 4 times where they hadn't caught the back of the pack, and he kept the safety car out on track using 15.3, his overriding authority to ensure sporting fairness. He knew. He's also got the discretion whereby, even having completed these procedures, if, for example, he's even said, right, safety car coming in. He said safety car in. Safety car, all the competitors get told safety car in this lap. Safety car continues around that lap until the end of Sector 2. And at the end of Sector 2, the safety car lights go out. The leader then starts backing the pack up, ready for giving the time for the safety car to complete that final sector of the lap and retire to the pit lane. And then that gives the gap for when the leader bolts. He's not going to catch the safety car, and then they start the race. But during that time, the safety car lights might go out. They might have been told, safety car in. But if something else happens, another crash happens, as we've seen, crashes happen under safety cars sometimes. Something else happens somewhere around the track, a spectator runs onto the track, as we've seen in Singapore. A protester runs onto the track. Race control says, oh, we've got a safety concern. Right, safety car needs to stay out. We can't resume this race yet. He has the overriding authority to say, I've carried out the regulations, I've thrown 48.13 saying safety car in this lap, but no, it's not safe, therefore safety car stays out. Notify everybody, we're still under safety car. Remember Silverstone 2026? Safety car in and it's ending. No, it's not. Oh no, that was just a glitch. That was just a glitch with the electronics. No. And that demonstrates that 48.13 doesn't override anything. And then point 5, that even if all cars had been lapped, 8 in total, of which 5 were allowed to overtake the safety car, it would not have changed the outcome of the race. So Red Bull's point 5 is neglecting the fact that the regulation wasn't carried out, that the safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap. Because the following lap to the lap that they were released on is lap 58. The end of that lap is the end of the race, meaning it's a safety car finish and Lewis Hamilton win. So point 5 is wrong. Point 1 is wrong. Point 2 is just a statement of fact that they then try to make an argument out of with point 3, which is entirely wrong. Point 4 is a statement of fact with no relevance. Point 5 is completely wrong. They're also, number 1, the race does not restart if the regulation is carried out. And yet they're trying to say, oh, even if they'd all gone, nothing would have changed in that race. You're trying to say, if something had have happened that didn't happen, nothing would have changed. Well, for a start, and this is actually the only thing that really matters, I'm going to make another point. This is the only thing that really matters, is there would be no racing lap. It's a safety car finish. That alone renders point 5 absolutely rubbish. Now, here's this is a bullshit point anyway, but just consider it anyway. We'll just throw it in there. They're trying to suggest that even if you'd have taken the other 3 cars out, which were Daniel Ricciardo, Lance Stroll and Mick Schumacher, then that doesn't change the outcome of the race. You're saying that when you've got a 3rd place competitor now on the back of Max Verstappen, when Max chucks it up the inside at turn 5 and runs Hamilton out wide, the 3rd place in that race is not going to make any attempt to go, oh, whilst he's pushing him out wide, I'll just nip up the inside and overtake the both of them and win the race. Do you know that that's not going to happen? You don't know that that's not going to happen. It wasn't allowed to happen, was it? So Red Bull have made a bullshit assumption there. Number 1, and this is the only thing that really matters, like I say, the only thing that matters is that the procedure is that the safety car returns to the pits at the end of the following lap. The following lap is lap 58. The end of it is the end of the race. Safety car finish. So Red Bull's 0.5 is a load of bollocks. They're trying to say, oh, well, even if they'd have let all the 8 through and still done what they did, but that was wrong. And we'd have still had that last lap, everything would have been the same. You don't know if it would have still been the same, because Carlos Sainz would have been right on the back of Max. But Carlos Sainz would have, but this is not my race, and I'll have to race them. Oh, that's because Ferrari are just content in this race to not race for a Grand Prix win. Oh, so we've got competitors in a race that aren't trying to win it. Oh, that's sport fixing. Oh, but we don't know if any of these teams are in on it. Yeah, we've got these people that have entered into this competition, but they're not going to try and win it. Do the bookmakers know that? Does anybody placing a bet on that event know that Carlos Sainz isn't going to try to win the race? He's just going to sit there and watch the other two race out, content just for third. That's sport rigging. That's fraud. But no, everybody thinks it's fine. It's just normal. The race director's evidence. The race director stated that the purpose of Article 48.12 was to remove the lapped cars that would interfere in racing between the leaders, and that in his view, Article 48.13 was the one that applied in this case. That is a lie. Nothing to do with interference, as is demonstrated by his conduct in Brazil 2019, Spain 2019, Sakir 2020, Eiffel 2020. After the mandatory lap of the safety car, those released cars were not interfering with the race between the leaders. There has been incidents in Grand Prix. I believe there was one where Massey was Charlie Whiting's understudy. The lapped car was at the back of the field, not interfering with the race between the leaders. It unlapped. The purpose is nothing to do with it interfering. I believe it was the German Grand Prix of 2018. I might go back and do a video on that. And I believe it was Webber who suffered a puncture early on in the race, went a lap down. There was a safety car incident, and he got that lap back, even though he was a lap down at the back of everybody. Something like that. It's nothing to do with interference. And that in his view, 48.13 was the one that applied. So what he's done is remove 5 cars that were in between places 1 and 2, but he's not removed 2 cars that interfered with places 2 and 3. That's race fixing. That's fixing an event so places 1 and 2 can just race off, blocking off place 3. So in his what is it? In his opinion, Article 48.3 was the one that applied. Well, what are the implications of that viewpoint? Oh, race fixing is what it is, Michael Massey. The race director also stated that it had long been agreed by all teams that where possible it was highly desirable for the race to end in a green condition, i.e. not under safety car. Nothing to do with it. Yes, you can all have a little chat at the race director's meal out. Oh, it'd be nice if the race ended under green. Yes, that would be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah, safety car finishes are a little bit of a damp squib of an ending, aren't they? Yes. Okay. Shall we agree to break the rules so that every race ends racing? Oh, you're not allowed to do that. Okay? Rules are rules, circumstances are circumstances. And if circumstances mean that, oh, we now can't go racing now because by the time it takes all of this mandatory procedure to play out, there are no laps left to race on. Unlucky. We can't manufacture green out of it now. So any desire, well, it's irrelevant. Just like football teams. Oh, where possible, it's highly desirable for a football match to end with a penalty shootout, isn't it, lads? Yes, that excites the kiddies. Let's, where possible, end matches with a penalty shootout. So how are you going to achieve that? Oh, so you're manufacturing a draw, are you, lads? Oh, between you, you're contriving the result of a sporting event, manufacturing a draw because you've got a desire for a penalty shootout. Oh, that's sport fixing. That's defrauding the audience that were in there to think that they were watching two teams try and beat each other in a game of football, and you've actually manufactured a draw so that you can create the spectacle of a penalty shootout. That's sport fixing. This high desire to end under green is bullshit. The conclusion of the stewards consider that the protest is admissible, so what Mercedes is saying is absolutely right. Having considered the various statements made by the parties, the stewards determined the following: that Article 15.3 allows the race director to control the use of the safety car, which in our determination includes its deployment and withdrawal. Absolutely right. But in accordance with the regulations that it's bound by. That Article 48.2 may not have been applied fully. It's nothing to do with may not, it was not. The conclusions have to be factual conclusions. It was not applied fully in relation to the safety car return to the pits at the end of the following lap, which means a safety car finish. Article 48.13 override, no it doesn't. And that once the message safety car in this lap has been displayed, it is mandatory to, no it's not. That's an invalid conclusion because it's not valid. You can display safety car in this lap, and if race control then determine, oh actually there's another safety concern now, there's still a safety concern, we still need to use the safety car, we are on track. Oh, but we can't now because we've said withdraw. It's no, it's not mandatory. Your overriding authority is, I'm putting that on track on the grounds of safety. That is my role. I might have said withdraw, but I'm now seeing something else. I'm redeploying it, having said withdraw, which actually is not a redeployment. It's a continuation of. I said come in. Its lights went out. It was going to come in. But no, it still needs to be there. So it's now not coming in. It's going to stay on. So it's going to continue its use. So it's not mandatory to withdraw. So the conclusion drawn by the stewards is entirely wrong. That notwithstanding Mercedes' request that the stewards remediate the matter by amending the classification to reflect the positions at the end of the penultimate lap. The penultimate lap is the end of lap 57. Lap 57 was when the rules were broken with the selection of 5 cars. We should actually amend this to the end of lap 56 before race control fucked anything like that. This is a step that the stewards believe is effectively shortening the race retrospectively and hence not appropriately. I mean, the FIA thought it was appropriate to stage a two and a bit lap parade around the Belgian track where no racing took place whatsoever. The FIA criteria of the race will be deemed to have started once the leader crosses the start-finish line for the first time after the safety car has returned to the pits. That's when racing begins. That never ever took place. And yet they deem that a Grand Prix. But stewards here believe that shortening the race retrospectively, where they say, oh, it should have been a 58 lap race, but now we're going to declare the result after lap 56 because, in fact, Mercedes were requesting the result after lap 57, would have still been the same result. But the stewards don't think that that's okay because that would be shortening the race retrospectively, and that's not appropriate. But the Belgian parade, where the NOS, 56 laps of valid racing, because it's still laps of valid racing. If a Grand Prix is impacted by a safety car during the race, Them laps that are under the safety car, they're still valid laps. They're not being raced, but they're still a valid part of the Grand Prix. But on this occasion, they think that, oh, that's shortening it retrospectively, and that's not appropriate. Accordingly, the protest is dismissed. The protest deposit is not refunded. So however much it cost, and there you go. That was entirely fraudulent. Now, you'd think, now, me, I'm not a legal expert, you see. See, when I went to university, I didn't choose a degree in the exploitation of others. All right, I chose not to be an exploiter in this world. I didn't choose to be taught how to monetize conflict, how to monetize people's problems. Okay, because that's what lawyers do, and that's what they get taught in their law degree. And then these parasitic extractors who gaslight their services, sell their expertise. Oh, I'm the expert of creating you an argument, whether you're right or wrong, but I'll get some money out of the situation anyway. See me for advice, and I'll make the argument for you and charge you £200 for every letter I send. Engage in the staged back and forth for the next 4 years, overseen by the judge, allowing us to play our shot and return and get paid at every shot that we make, every letter we send, every court hearing we attend, and it's all bullshit. Because that's not how you solve problems. That's just the stage facade of the back and forth that these legal experts are. And once you've played the game for 5 years and you learn, you see how it works, then you're deemed to have the integrity to become a judge, to direct the back and forth, to enable your legal chums to extract from that staged back and forth. Now, if you're really good, if you are rated a top level performer, able to maintain the facade, the illusion, then you can become a barrister. And once you become an accredited performer, you get handed the wig and the cape, and you become accredited to be able to perform in the performance area of the court. And you are then awarded the title of being one of the King's Counsel, right? Paul Harris is one of them. One of the finest legal minds in the world, right? And that's why Mercedes got him to argue their case. And all that I've taken you through here, he couldn't work that out. Funny that, isn't it? Funny that somebody who hasn't got a law degree and isn't a barrister and a legal expert, part of the King's Counsel and the bar and the judiciary and the Royal Court of Justice and His Majesty's courts, all of that, but they're all different. Don't worry your heads about that, right? I'm not any of that, but I could work this out. And the guy that's the best in the world, Paul Harris, employed by Manchester City to get them off of their financial fair play frauds as well. Yeah, he couldn't work that out. That's strange, isn't it? It's strange that the best sports barrister in the world couldn't work out that this was all bullshit, could he? He couldn't act in the best interest of his client. Oh, he's bound by client confidentiality. What was his client asking him to do? And he will only serve what his client wants him to do. Is that right? Is that right? Strange that. It's all a facade. It's all bullshit. And yet that prick that I've now deleted tries to come to my channel as a Trojan horse to subvert your understanding of it. Now, like I say, I could take this to court, and I could stand in front of any cunt in a court, and I would smash the fuck out of everybody with this alone. But what you'd be up against is a establishment fixer in a wig. You can Google the judges. Okay, what you'll see is somebody in a costume standing in front of some books. Okay, oh, they must know a lot. They've got a wig and a costume and wearing ladies' tights and shoes, and they are standing in front of some books. That makes them worthy of judging a situation, apparently. And what they do is they manipulate outcomes, okay, to protect power and wealth. The judiciary, uh, only accountable to themselves, operating with impunity. Because you can't challenge a judge's decision, and if you challenge a judge's decision, you have to appeal to another judge to see if that judge will allow you to appeal the decision made by the original judge, and they can say no. But even if they allow you to appeal the original decision, that gets sent to 3 more judges, who will then decide whether there'd been an error in law in the original case, to then decide whether there's going to be a retrial of the original case. That's their rules and procedures. And 6 years later, and many, many £1,000,000 in legal fees later, we have another staged back and forth. Whilst those members of the bar, the accredited performers, are making millions out of this. All chums from the Masons' Lodge and the Chambers. They're all creaming multi-millions out of the situation. Just like the post office scandal, whereby the British government-owned post office had bought in a system which was faulty, and then it was making out that the postmasters were defrauding the post office, stealing money from them. And the post office, rather than acknowledge its error, it covered that up. It criminalised postmasters. It bankrupted postmasters. It sent some of them to prison. Some of them committed suicide under the stress. People's lives were harmed. But you got barristers acting for the post office, trying to absolve them of consequence for their crimes. You've got the government trying to cover it up. You've got the judiciary staging it to hide it, to cover up the magnitude of it. Fixers for the establishment. And then when finally they decide, oh, we've actually got to give these people some form of justice, oh, we'll award them 50-odd million pounds, of which the legal expenses are over 40 million of that. We'll give the lawyers the 40 million that they're worth in this, and the victims, oh, they can have 20-odd grand each. But the lawyers are worth 40 million for being the staged arguers, staging the back and forth in their wigs and their capes with all of their knowledge of how to argue the law. This is the cunt job that we're in. This is the world of country that we live in. Okay? So, when I go to court, I'm going to need you with me. And those of you that come, you're going to need to be up for the fight. Because I ain't going to back down to these fuckers. And they'll fucking see what justice is. And they fuck around, they're going to fucking find out. So I need you with me. Thanks for your time.